Rapides Parish Library System unveiled a new partnership this morning, hoping to help bridge the health divide in the area. Telehealth kiosks are now available for library patrons at library branches in Glenmora, Hineston, LeCount, Boyce, and Tioga, with 3 more expected to be added in Pineville, Labousse, and Alexandria before the end of the year. The kiosks were made possible through a partnership between Friends of the Rapides Parish Library and the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation. Each kiosk is stocked with blood pressure, temperature, weight, and oxygen level monitoring equipment.
We want to serve all of our communities in the parish, but this is specifically designed for the people in more rural areas. As someone who grew up in a rural area and has experience with having to drive long distances to get access to health care, this is very important both for me as an individual and as the library director to see that all of our community members have access to the health care that they need.
Kiosks can be checked out and reserved at the front desk of each branch. Patrons will be directed to a private area in the library to conduct their appointments.